Hey, welcome back. Today's video is about pointing bullets again, because I serve a large community of shooters from F-class to PRS to hunters. And I think it's important for people to understand the impact of various processes so they don't get to doing things that they don't need to do or do things that they do need to do. Because pointing is one of those processes that is best reserved for the people that need to do it. Before we talk about the results of pointing the 140 hybrid in 6.5 diameter, let's talk about how we point them. Because giving you results without a pointing process to tell you how much I pointed them really isn't of value to you. I want you to be able to repeat any experiment I do on your home range and see if your results vary from mine. For today's test, we pointed on this RCBS Rock Checker Supreme that I've mounted inverted and put two handles on to balance it out. You've seen this before in previous videos. In the press, we have the wooden pointing die. I have a 6.5 slave and a number 1 pointing die. The setup is pretty simple. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to sort the bullets by overall length. I sorted them into a 2/1000 length lot. In other words, the longest to the shortest is 2/1000 apart. I want to keep that a very consistent number because we're going to point between the base of the bullet and the point of the bullet, so we don't want to be varying the overall length because that's going to vary the pointing process and just add more noise to our data. Setup was pretty simple. We put a bullet into the die with the stem backed all the way out and go ahead and give her a crush, hoping not to touch the point. If we touch the point, we back everything out a little bit more and put a different bullet in and try again. The whole idea here is to get the die to where we can run the stem in until we feel it stop with our fingers. Once it stops against the point of the bullet, we back the press off and go ahead and turn our micrometer adjuster in 20/1000 of an inch. This is a 20/1000 point that we've put on this bullet. Once we're done with that, we're just going to feed bullets and slam them home gently with the press. We're not going to bang them. We're just going to push them in there, and then we're going to pull them out. You shouldn't have a lot of force on your pointing. If you're getting a lot of heavy forces, probably doing it wrong. Do some measuring and see what's happened. Now, the point is virtually closed on these bullets. I mean, it's right there, as small as I can realistically get it without damaging anything. So we're going to take that to the range and do a side-by-side round-robin test with unpointed bullets out of the 6.5 Creedmoor. Hey, while I was editing this video, I realized I forgot to say two very important things. The first is if you're in the United States and you are a citizen and have the right to vote, please vote in the November elections. I'm not into political fear-mongering. I'm not into endorsing candidates. I know who I'm going to vote for, but I don't need to tell you that. Instead, I'm just asking you to make your voice heard. The next thing, and a very personal favor that I would ask of you, is to go look for my poll that I just posted the other day and vote on how I should fund this channel in the future. Because I'm having just a little bit of a squeeze going on here, and I need to figure out how better to make this work to pay for all of the equipment, the studio, and all of the ammunition that I expend making videos for you. All right, guys, back to the video. Because the intent of this test is only to look at the ballistics of the bullet, not the accuracy or anything of that nature, we're just going to assess what happens to the velocity loss over 600 yards. We're measuring the muzzle velocity with the lab radar and measuring the impact velocity with my shot marker target. Now, shot markers are well known for not being super precise for velocity, but at the same time, we can do comparisons with them pretty easily, especially if we put it into pair fire mode. So pair fire mode and away we go. Unpointed, then pointed. And here's the results. The average velocity loss over 600 yards was reduced some for this test with the pointed bullets. What does that turn into in G7 BC? Well, it means a slight difference, about 3% in the G7 BC. The calculated G7 for this particular situation was 0.306 for the unpointed bullets, oddly enough exactly what Litz came up with, and 0.315 for the pointed ones. In other words, we gained 3% in our G7 BC, which means that for F-class shooters, it's probably worth it. For PRS shooters, not so much. Now, there is one exception to that statement, and that is if you're at the highest elite levels of PRS, where 1 point once a year might be the difference between winning a championship and not, then absolutely, why not point? It's not going to hurt you any. But at the same time, for a low-level shooter like me, kind of that mid-pack guy, it's not worth your time, it's not worth your money, and you got bigger fish to fry, so to speak. What did it do to the BC variation? Well, actually, I didn't shoot enough rounds total, 10 of each, to actually assess the BC variation. It looks like they're approximately the same, but a lot more shooting would be required to figure that out, and it's not worth the time to do for my application. Well, that's it. Pointing the 140 hybrid is worth about 3% increase in BC, and is not worth it for my PRS application, but would definitely be worth it if I was shooting F-class. All right, guys, until next time, shoot straight, and I'll see you in the next video.